till I reach the top somehow. I'll keep moving.
Yes, my Straight Talk family, whenever you hear that theme song, you know it is the time for another edition of Straight Talk, and time for me to say greetings to the world. You know, my Straight Talk family, when you hear that song, we are about to reach and communicate with you all around the globe. And we know that you are in the diaspora all over the globe. So we reach you in Africa. We communicate with you in Europe. We do communicate with you in Asia. And we do communicate with you as well all over North America. So I'm at liberty to say good night. I can't say good morning. I will also say good afternoon, because one of such greetings will be applicable to the region in which you now find yourselves. And of course, we must as well say good night to St. Kitts and Nevis, and we must say good night to the entire Caribbean region, because we also reach and communicate with you all around the region, from the north to the south. We get you online, and we ensure that we communicate with you, my Straight Talk family. And I thank those who share the link, because whenever you share that link, we get first timers. And I'll be surprised if we don't have any first timers tonight. Like I said, we always do get first timers. And if you're a first timer, may I inform you that Straight Talk is a public service program that facilitates and promotes free, underline free expression on issues of national, regional, and international interests, be they legal, be they environmental, be they technological, social, economic, and or political issues. On Straight Talk, we do have a forum on which you can express yourselves freely. On this program, we try to raise the level of national, regional, and international discourse. We try to raise the level of national, regional, and international consciousness as well, by alerting our people to their rights, to their responsibilities, and certainly to their obligations. My name is Ian Patches Liburd, and I give Almighty God thanks for blessing me with yet another opportunity to join you, my people, on yet another occasion when we come together in conversation. And as your host, I pledge to remain an untiring advocate of truthfulness, because we, like the hymn writer says, we are called to be God's prophets, speaking for the truth and right, standing firm for godly justice, and bringing all those evil things to light. So let's seek the courage needed, our high calling to fulfill, that we all may know the blessing of the doing of God's will. It's His will. So my Straight Talk family, and in particular the first timers, I must inform you that absolutely nothing is watered down on this program. We never tried to make it more interesting by omission or by exaggeration. Straight Talk is not about sensationalism or creating excitement, especially if that has to come at the expense of accuracy, because we lean on the facts. And I can tell you, it is my bounden duty to present at all times what I call the unvarnished truth, the plain truth. That's what I mean. Especially when it comes to governance, accountability, transparency, and the list goes on, whether here in St. Kitts and Nevis or wherever you are on the globe. Because we are joined together on this program with people in the diaspora all around the world. We're joined with people across our federation. And some we know very well. Some we have met physically. Many of you we have met spiritually. And some will agree with the positions of truth that we always advance on Straight Talk. And some certainly will disagree. And that's okay, that's fine. Because we are different people. We'll have a different views. I call it a diversity of views. And nothing's wrong with that. But what's wrong and what will sadden me if we ever become disagreeable. So let's thank Almighty God nonetheless for helping us to understand, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. So let us therefore hope and pray for that day when we will all sing his praise together. So welcome again, my people. And thanks for those who share the link as I intimated earlier. You bring us first timers. Please continue to do so. I must always remind you, as well as especially the first timers, that Straight Talk is a participative program. By that I mean we include your calls and your emails. And if you're so minded calling, the numbers are on your screens. There's some of you who like the cloak of anonymity. And for those who don't want to be heard for whatever reason, we give you access via our email platform. And that address is also on your screen. Straight Talk is also heard live on Alexa. Some of you who have access to Alexa, just say, Alexa, play Massive Vibes Radio. And we thank Massive, haven't heard him for a long time, who gives us this access at a moderate or a modest fee. Some ask about donations to support our efforts. Some do provide donations. For those who do, I say a big thank you. Because no matter how small it is, it helps us to continue this important service. It doesn't come on a regular basis, but that's fine. It's all about service for me. But some who wish to donate, I've still left that code on your screen. Just scan it. A very simple process. You'll find the payment form, and it's highly confidential as well. So thank you again for your support and for helping us to keep the dialogue alive. And I must always say a special welcome. I'll have no program unless I do this, believe it or not. Say a special welcome to my Straight Talk Junior Brigade. They all look forward to this. Young Dwayne, Jasmine, Tristan, Shamar, Kevin, Rue, Jamal, Travis, Travon, my grandson Neymar, his good friend Saraya, Elizabeth. And I always find it as well as an imperative to hail a special lady in St. Louis. I met a caller from Sandy Point some weeks ago. Never misses the program and asks me to say a holla, so I do that each time. We always move or always present what I call our observations in review when we highlight our current issues and then do some reflection and ask a few questions. And after our observations in review, we will move to our thesis for tonight, which I have titled CARICOM-CHAIR ROAMS, Maduro captured plus Khamenei killed. And after our observations, we move right into that thesis. I believe I can forewarn you it's going to be a very interesting thesis. Our first observation comes from St. Lucia, and we received this release from the government of St. Lucia today in relation to the United Kingdom decision to introduce a visa requirement for St. Lucian nationals. And this release has confirmed the imposition of that requirement for St. Lucians traveling to the country. And this certainly must be of concern for us here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and by extension in the wider OECS region. Because I believe this has derived from our famous citizenship by investment program. But this release came from the government of St. Lucia, to be exact, from the Ministry of External Affairs, International Trade, Civil Aviation, and Diaspora Affairs. And the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, said this to the UK media in relation to that same issue.
Announced that I'm suspending certain visa routes for a further 4 countries: Afghanistan, Cameroon, Myanmar and Sudan, where abuse has been unacceptably high. I will also impose visit visas on Nicaragua and St. Lucia, as their visa-free entry has created a backdoor into this country. I introduce all of these measures in an attempt to bring our systems of legal migration and asylum into line with this party's values, upholding our international responsibilities while securing our own borders.
So yes, my Straight Talk family, coming from the Home Secretary. You can hear she's an I lady, I. But it's the United Kingdom though. And on our second observation, we stay in the Windward Islands and move across to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And remember, before the last elections, Ralph Gonzalez threatened to move to the courts in relation to the dual citizenship, by a Straight Talk family, as it relates to the current Prime Minister, a new Prime Minister, Godwin Friday. And Ralph Gonzalez and his St. Vincent and the Grenadines Labour Party held true to their threat to challenge the constitutionality of Prime Minister Godwin Friday's election and filed a petition in the courts in St. Vincent and the Grenadines that contests his eligibility as a member of parliament. And I'm wondering, because Friday been on the opposition benches for forever, for eternity, I'm sure almost 20 years or more. But he's now moved to Prime Minister, and Ralph has held true to that threat. And that matter went to the court in St. Vincent and the Grenadines today.
Prime Minister, can we get a comment from you?
Yeah, it's a beautiful day. Wonderful day. Look at the sunshine. Go ahead. Look, we have a here.
Can you state your name, Council?
Yes, I'm Ram Logan, Senior Counsel from Trinidad and Tobago.
What can you tell us about the case management that you just came on?
Well, this is a rather interesting, if not amusing, experience. The mandate given to the newly elected Prime Minister is overwhelming, and this is an attempt by the petitioners to effect change otherwise than by the democratic process. The mandate is such that we are extremely confident that these election petitions will be dealt with swiftly and it will be given the due care and attention that they deserve. But as you can see from the Honorable Prime Minister and the Attorney General's faces, they don't look too worried or troubled by it.
So yes, the lawyer says the Prime Minister don't look worried. The lawyers for the petitioner also spoke to the media. And interestingly, that lawyer, Stuart Young, contested the last elections in Trinidad and Tobago. He acted Prime Minister, and he contested those elections, but his party lost to Kamla.
Well, this matter for Vincent is a serious matter, and what is being determined by the court really is an interpretation of your constitutional provisions and the qualification or the disqualification to stand as a candidate for elections. So it's quite an important provision that is finally going to be determined by the court. And this morning we had a very useful case management conference before the judge, and we've set a tight time frame and timeline that's going to take us to trial at the end of July, the 28th to the 30th of July. But it is important because it is going to set the future and finally determine and interpret the disqualification provisions of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Constitution, and in particular by having citizenship from Canada. How does that affect one's ability to qualify to run for elections in St. Vincent?
So yes, my Straight Talk family, the lawyers for the petitioner just advised that that case would be heard come the 28th of July. And recall the Denzel Douglas case here in St. Kitts. Recall that Denzel Douglas was literally booted out of Parliament by the court for holding dual citizenship. Is it something similar in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? Godwin Friday has a Canadian passport, we are told. And we are also told that the Constitution just may be slightly different to ours. Here's what Young said.
Mr. Young, there are a number of judicial rulings on matters similar to that. The latest is the Denzel Douglas ruling in St. Kitts and Nevis. And all of those rulings spelled out clearly that dual citizenship is unconstitutional. Do you think that the judge, I don't want to preempt anything, but do you think that there might be a misunderstanding in some quarters on that?
The St. Vincent and Grenadines Constitution has some similarities, but there are also certain differences. So it's important that this matter be determined for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. There will be authorities from other jurisdictions that will be relied on by both sides. It's an extremely experienced judge ever before, so we're fortunate with that. And let's see how it goes. I am not going to preempt anything.
Well, one will see how it goes, according to Counsel Young. Our third observation relates to the issues raised in the March 26 International Monetary Fund Article 4 mission report for St. Kitts and Nevis. And there are definitely something or things the Terence Michael Drew government, in my view, should take seriously. The report I post on your screen, as you can see, St. Kitts and Nevis staff concluding statement of the 2026 Article 4 mission. And in summary, though they are not necessarily at a crisis point yet, I may add, the issues are more accurately early warning signs about the fiscal sustainability of the Jew administration. It speaks to CBI revenues, for example. It speaks, as you can see, in the top paragraph on your right there. As the CBI windfall in recent years, which led to higher primary spending fades. So fiscal deficits are expected to remain high, with public debt edging up further. I mean, what are deficits without attempting to insult your knowledge? You get a deficit if you spend more money than you have. If you budget to spend $100 and you spend $150, then you have a $50 deficit. But the CBI revenue decline, my straight talk family, is the key structural risk, I may add. And I'll keep that on your monitors so you can read it. The IMF highlights the economy's heavy dependence on CBI income, which is inherently unstable. And this other slide would provide that information, because we normally give you the evidence. And as an example, CBI revenue, according to the IMF, fell dramatically from about 25% of GDP, gross domestic product, in 2022 to roughly 5%. 5%, imagine that, in 2025, last year. That's why we're having so many problems. Things are so tough in the country. Growth in 2025 slowed partly due to low CBI inflows and weaker construction activity. And for a small country, a small state like St. Kitts and Nevis, that is a huge fiscal shock, because CBI had effectively been functioning like a major tax source, although in the budget you'll refer to it as non-tax revenue. Foreign direct investment, some people refer to it as. But the IMF's message is basically, in my view, saying to Terence Michael Jew, adjust now, not later. And it is recommending several things. Introduce fiscal rules. St. Kitts and Nevis is one of the few countries in the region without binding fiscal rules. And fiscal rules would limit deficits and force savings during boom periods. For years you hear them talking about Sustainable Development Fund, SDF, and all kinds of fancy things. But there's some light at the end of the tunnel, because the IMF has also highlighted some positive factors, I will admit. It speaks to tourism, which is recovering strongly, according to the IMF. And growth is expected to increase to about 2.2% in this year, 2026. But the real issue, I believe, the real issue is policy discipline. In other words, if spending adjusts and revenue sources diversify, the situation will become manageable. But if deficits continue while CBI stays weak, then debt, public debt, could become problematic over the next decade. And that's the views of the IMF. The way and the direction we are heading, my straight talk family, we may just go back to the IMF if Terence Michael Drew and his cabinet of experts don't take stock, to use a colloquial term. And our fourth observation: Straight Talk has been following developments in Venezuela since the capture of its president approximately 9 weeks ago. And this report came from the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, during his media appearance just before he left St. Kitts last week. He said this.
We're not even 9 weeks since Maduro was captured. I think life in Venezuela today is not good enough, but it is substantially better than it was 9 weeks ago, where this could have gone in a very different direction. And frankly, a lot of the so-called experts on many of your outlets were predicting this is going to be catastrophic and the whole thing's going to fall apart and it's going to descend into chaos. And that has not happened.
Some naysayers who predicted chaos. That didn't happen. But the issue of elections was also raised. And this was Rubio's response.
You talked about elections in Venezuela. I wonder what you're thinking of timelines for that.
Well, I don't know if we'd set an artificial timeline. The important part is just that you think about it logically. It's hard to have elections when many of the people that may want to participate in have been in jail or are still overseas. So I do think that as we enter this recovery phase, which we think slowly, I think we've done a pretty good job working with the interim authorities on the stabilization phase. You have not seen mass migration, you have not seen civil war, you have not seen violence. On the contrary, you've seen some real stability on the ground, and you've seen a growing in productivity among their key sectors. I think now you enter into this, we're increasingly entering into this phase of recovery, and part of that is a national reconciliation. So there have been very positive steps taken. Hundreds of political prisoners have been freed. The infamous prison El Acoya has been closed. Those are all very positive. You've seen an amnesty law pass. There was actually a real debate in their National Assembly over the law, and even amendments filed to it and so forth. These are all very positive. They're not enough, but they're positive. And I think that begins to create the groundwork for civil society there to function. To have elections, you need to have a number of factors. You need to have political parties that are formed. You need to have political movements. You need to have a media environment that allows people to campaign and get the word out. All of these things have to be in place, and you need to have candidates that can run. And so I think it begins by getting a lot of the people that were in jail because they were candidates, or because they were supporting candidates, or because they were involved in their politics. So you have to have a real civil political society in order to have elections. And that begins, in the case of Venezuela, by the amnesty law, by the freeing of political prisoners, and by the ability of Venezuelans abroad who want to participate in the country's political life to return.
And yes, let's choose our family. That's what is anticipated in terms of elections in St. Vincent. And our fifth observation and final one, we are still following the humanitarian crisis in Cuba. And this was also addressed by the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, while in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Today, the humanitarian crisis is getting out of hand because the Cubans don't know how to run an economy. They're incompetent. They have a military-controlled holding company named Gaesa, which controls 40% of their GDP, and none of the money that company has generated flows to the coffers of the government. None of that money goes to schools, none of that money goes to roads, none of that money goes to feeding the population. You have a country that has fertile farmland, that imports sugar. This was one of the world's leading exporters of sugar. Now they import sugar. They import almost all their food. It's a dysfunction. It's just not even an economy. It's like total dysfunction. That's their fault. As far as spillover effect, they're not more concerned than we are. We're 90 miles away. And the U.S. has experienced mass migration from Cuba in the past, certainly in the early 90s with the rafter crisis, but as recently as 2021 and 22, we were having people show up in the Florida Keys and stranded in the Bahamas. So we don't want to see it either. And ultimately, as far as the move today with the war, this is existing. The law allows us to do business like fuel and even telecommunications with the Cuban private sector. The problem is the Cuban private sector is very small. If they want to open the gates and allow the Cuban private sector, independent of the military, independent of the government, to grow, that solution is there. What the Cuban people should know is this, that if they are hungry and they are suffering, it's not because we're not prepared to help them. We are. It's that the people standing in the way of us helping them is the regime. It's their Communist Party. That's who's standing in the way. If they move out of the way, we're more than happy to work with individual Cubans so they can have an opportunity to feed their families and build their economy. But we are not the impediment. They are. All right?
So the impediment is the Cuban Communist Party. Where does that money go? They've stopped producing sugar, one of the world's largest producers of sugar. Cuba imports sugar now. Imagine that. But my Straight Talk family, you know, it would not surprise me if the United States take control of Cuba. And that's just a prediction, not a recommendation. But the way things are going, we never know. However, those are my observations in review for tonight. And don't hold me to that prediction. Something tells me that the Western Hemisphere is being cleaned up. Went to Venezuela. Now they're 90 miles from the US border. And I don't know how much longer this will be tolerated. Those are my observations, like I said, for tonight, and I move right into my thesis, which I have titled CARICOM-CHAIR ROAMS. Maduro captured plus Khamenei killed. And CARICOM 50, which was hosted in St. Kitts and Nevis under incoming chairman Terence Michael Drew, was filled with the anticipated pomp and ceremony. But truth be told, no one expected the public show of disunity. From all the way down south in Trinidad and Tobago to the north in Jamaica, the message was clear. It was time for the leaders in CARICOM to revise their outdated foreign policy slogan, I call it. Friends of all and satellites of none. Meanwhile, what we have seen is a confused chairman, and he will be for the next 5 months, I think, or 4 months. But a confused chairman, and I say so respectfully, in the person of our own Prime Minister, Terence Michael Drew, who appeared completely out of his depth when addressing the media at the close of the CARICOM 50, as can be gleaned from his embarrassing response, which I exposed before, to an elementary question coming from the media.
Did CARICOM support or endorse the United States military action in the Caribbean with regards to illegal drug trade?
Right, you're asking about a question which I sought to answer at this particular time. You mean to say, Lucia? Right, good. Good.
He asked the question to you, and he asked the question whether CARICOM has endorsed.
Right, CARICOM stand on principle to make sure that anything that is done, this or anything, has to follow a particular international law. You're asking that CARICOM, with a CARICOM at this time and the necessary.
But my Straight Talk family, Terence Michael Drew ought to have known that as chairman, he must set the tone within CARICOM for the next 6 months by leading from the front, and not to make excuses as he did in the past about not being the Prime Minister of CARICOM. And that was the position he took in order to justify his silence when the US captured President Maduro from Venezuela in early January 2026, followed by the US blockade of Cuba, all Chairman Drew contributed was the fact he studied in Cuba, and according to him, he avoided the Cuban politics and gave us what he called full disclosure.
I must give full disclosure. I studied in Cuba. I lived in Cuba for 7 years. I have friends there. I have people who are like family to me. They reach out to me and tell me of their difficulties. Food has become terribly scarce for some. Access to water has been challenging. Garbage fill the streets. Houses without electricity. I can only feel the pain of those who treated me so well when I was a student. I can feel their challenges and their difficulties. I do not get involved in their politics, but as a matter of humanity, it is challenging. I will say it is almost impossible not to feel the pain the pain that is conveyed to me in messages and calls from those who I lived among. And so CARICOM can help directly, and CARICOM can become a conduit for conversations so that the best outcome would be had.
But Terrence Michael Drew, the chairman, was completely at variance with his predecessor, Andrew Holness, who advanced this view.
Friends, we must address the situation in Cuba with clarity and courage. Cuba is our Caribbean neighbor. Its doctors and teachers have served across our region. Its people are part of our shared history. But today, the Cuban people face severe economic hardship, energy shortages, and growing humanitarian strain. Jamaica is sensitive to the struggles of the Cuban people. Humanitarian suffering serves no one. Apart from our fraternal care and solidarity with the Cuban people, it must be clear that a prolonged crisis in Cuba will not remain confined to Cuba. Let there be no doubt, Jamaica stands firmly for democracy, human rights, political accountability, and open market-based economies. We do not believe that long-term stability can exist where economic freedom is constrained and political participation is limited. Sustainable prosperity requires openness to ideas, to enterprise, to investment, and to the will of the people.
And many seem to take offense or get offended when the clarion call goes out for democracy in Cuba. And Terrence Michael Drew, our chairman, was also at variance with Kamala Prasad Bisesar, who told it like it is.
And then there's the global focus on Cuba, right here at our CARICOM. And let me remind me and us, every single leader in this room was elected by a free and fair democratic election. Everyone in our countries. And so I ask, why do some CARICOM governments and political parties believe that they and their parties and their supporters should have the right to contest democratic elections to choose them as leaders, where the Cuban citizens have no right to a free and fair election? And whilst I talk with you, Prime Minister Holness, I empathize with the people, the good people of Cuba. But there's a regime that's a dictatorial one, and none of us want that in our country, not one of us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here today. We were all elected by free and fair elections. And so we cannot advocate for others to live under communism and dictatorship. But we want to live here in our CARICOM region under democracy and capitalism. That's an oxymoron, it's a contradiction. For ourselves, we want free democracy, but tell the Cuban people, okay, we feel sorry for you.
And I don't know why, but some take offense to that position. But you know, behind closed doors, all the heads agreed with that position. And it was a good thing, a very good thing, that Marco Rubio, the U.S. Secretary of State, revealed to the media that CARICOM heads agreed that the situation in Cuba is unsustainable. Unsustainable.
Cuba is a country located 90 miles off the coast of the United States. It has a very severe and catastrophic economic crisis on its hands. And if someone in their system has information to share with us about changes they're open to making or moves they're prepared to accept, we would certainly listen to that. And I would probably do that not in a setting in front of the media, because I think it would be more productive that way. Ultimately, actions will be important in something like that.
We can negotiate a new system in Cuba. I mean, are you hopeful that they're going to be reformists inside of Cuba?
Well, I mean, the status quo is unsustainable. We had a meeting there today with all the leaders of CARICOM, and it was one of the points I raised, and I think virtually everyone in the room agreed that Cuba's status quo is unacceptable. Cuba needs to change. It needs to change. And it doesn't have to change all at once. It doesn't have to change from one day to the next. Everyone is mature and realistic here. We're seeing that process play out, for example, in Venezuela. And many of the countries represented at the CARICOM conference today were themselves countries that went through transitions at some point in their history. But Cuba needs to change. It needs to change dramatically, because it is the only chance that it has to improve the quality of life for its people and not lose 15% of its population since 2021. 15% of the people of Cuba have left since 2021. That is not a system that's working. That's a system that's in collapse. And they need to make dramatic reforms. And if they want to make those dramatic reforms that open the space for both economic and eventually political freedom for the people of Cuba, obviously the United States would love to see that. It would be helpful. If they decide they're going to dig in and just continue forward, then I think they're going to continue to experience failure, and the people of the country are going to continue to suffer, and it'll be the regime's fault.
And I don't know if you caught the point Marco Rubio said, that every single CARICOM leader agreed that the status quo in Cuba cannot be sustained. But my Straight Talk family, the day after, on the 27th of February, the sun set on the 50th regular meeting with a retreat in Nevis. Conspicuously absent was Kamla Prasad, who perhaps summed it up at the Conference of Heads eloquently before departing, when she said that as leaders, they all have different paths, but the aim is the same. But approximately 7,000 miles or 11.5 kilometers. Yes, approximately 7,000 miles and 11.5 kilometers far away from the Caribbean region. As the sun rose on the 28th of February, the US and Israel launched aerial attacks on Iran, killing Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of this Islamic Republic, and several senior regime officials. And Trump, remember, confirmed that.
Over the past 36 hours, the United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen. Nobody's seen anything like it. We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Just now it was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building, all in a matter of literally minutes. Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead.
And yes, my Straight Talk family, President Trump confirmed that Khamenei was dead. The CARICOM chairman said that the global order is shifting. It was agreed that it was appropriate to conclude a cooperation framework appropriate to the 21st century to support the needs and interests of the Caribbean community and the USA. This framework should address a structured migration program, security cooperation, trade and investment, disaster recovery, human development and technical assistance. It was recognized that the last serious and coherent engagement between members of the Caribbean community and the USA was almost 50 years ago under President Reagan. And my Straight Talk family, Netanyahu did support Trump, of course.
There's never been a president like Donald J. Trump. His resoluteness, his decisiveness, his clarity of thinking, the way he gets things, gets right to the crux of things. It cuts through all the fluff, cuts through the chase, gets down to the main point, and he gets down to the main action that needs to be taken. And I think for Israel, and I think for the countries of the free world, let me tell you, I think for the world, we're very lucky to have him as the leader of the free world, and in fact, the leader of the world. He's brought America back to being the leader of the world.
And look at Iran over 40 years, the last 40 years, and 6 presidents, my Straight Talk family. Examine this.
And think about how American presidents have treated the Ayatollah for the last 40 years. Jimmy Carter, 52 Americans taken hostage 1979. Our policy, avoid and appease. That lasted 444 days. Ronald Reagan, 220 Marines are killed by Iranian-backed terrorists in 1983 in Beirut. Our policy, avoid and appease. Bill Clinton, avoid and appease. George Bush, avoid and appease. Barack Obama, definitely avoid, definitely appease, but also send Iran billions of dollars on crates. We've got the photos. Joe Biden, well, Joe and Kamala, they definitely avoid and appease, but they didn't really have much of an Iran policy either.
Mr. President, to Iran in this moment.
Don't. What's the message to Iran?
Don't.
As President Biden said, just don't.
Exactly. It's one word. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that really worked, Kamala. You guys are so tough. Don't. Our official Iran policy for 4 years under Joe Biden, one word. Avoid, appease, and of course, don't. And that is what you get when you elect a man with dementia president of the United States. Jake Tapper wouldn't talk about that. He thought don't was a great idea.
Information. And yes, my Straight Talk family, examine for yourselves the current geopolitical disposition of the world. President Nicolas Maduro of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela was captured and now sits in a U.S. jail. The Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran, was eliminated. He's dead. Thus the sum total of these factors equals to what it seems a CARICOM chairman roaming all over Africa. He roams outside the Western Hemisphere and believes he has gone to the South-South region. And he went with this commitment, my Straight Dog family.
As chair of CARICOM earlier this year, I emphasized the importance of strengthening South-South cooperation. Our engagement here reflects that commitment in action.
And that's what he gone with. That's the message. As chair of CARICOM, he claimed to have emphasized the importance of strengthening South-South cooperation, and his engagement in Ghana reflects that commitment in action. You know, I was a little confused, though, when I heard that commitment, because geographically speaking, Ghana is not part of the South-South region in Africa. Ghana is in West Africa, along the Gulf Coast of Guinea, on the Atlantic coast and borders, Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, Togo, to name a few. And I am aware that the South-South is not a standard regional division of Africa. It is most commonly used in Nigeria to describe one of its 6 geopolitical zones, the oil-rich Niger Delta states. In simple terms, Nigeria created a South-South zone to organize politics better, recognize the oil-rich Niger Delta, and give minority groups in that region stronger representation. But do you think that was bad? Our Prime Minister also appeared to be biologically confused. I'll say it again. Our Prime Minister, Terence Michael Drew, appeared to be biologically confused as he took a lady, he said, for his aunt when he went to Ghana.
My visit here on another level is really coming back home. As I drove through Ghana, I couldn't tell the difference as whether I was in St. Kitts and Nevis or I was in Ghana. It's profound, it's revealing. You have to experience it to know it. Each person I see look like somebody I know. Yes. Last year I was relating to Mr. President, of course, that I had the opportunity to meet the deputy or the vice president in Addis when we had the first in-person meeting between the AU and CARICOM. I was the chair from the CARICOM side, and His Excellency President from Angola was the chair from the African side. And I met a lady, a distinguished lady, and inquired who she was, because she looked so much like my aunt. And as I approached her, she said, you know, she was the vice president of Ghana. So I'm really thinking now that my family might have come from here. But on another level.
You see what I told you, my Straight family? Our Prime Minister is biologically confused, taking this lady for his aunt, he said. But how could our Prime Minister so easily forget what's going on in the Middle East and the attendant effect on this war on the Caribbean region, and in particular St. Kitts and Nevis? And I saw an article in the Week News, an arm of CS Global, I knew it as, a company that markets the SKN St. Kitts Nevis CBI, or used to, because the records show that this company no longer exists, my Straight family. Notwithstanding, the content should make all of us uneasy, my Straight family. Because this article is suggesting that against the backdrop of the geopolitical upheaval in the Middle East, so many people will come to St. Kitts and Nevis. As it says in that last paragraph on your right, on your left, beg your pardon, often dubbed, the next Dubai for the wealthy. This federation is proving it can deliver on that promise, my Straight Dog family. But the article, bear me out, my Straight Dog family, the article has brought back sad memories about our Iranian connection to our CBI. Yes, my Straight Talk family. And this is one of the reasons why my body cringes when I read about the online gambling, for example, in Nevis. My body cringes. And Straight Talk understands that Mark Brantley has instructed the approximately 18 companies already registered in Nevis that under no circumstances must the US dollar be used for any transaction. And that Russian Nuri Katz, you see him there posing with, runs the operations, is not inclined, according to the instructions of Brantley, to register any US company. They don't want to track, the US to track the money laundering. But with the war raging, beg your pardon, in the Middle East, how can we literally, physically, and or legally prevent those filthy rich families in possession of St. Kitts Nevis passports? How can we stop them from coming to their second home in St. Kitts and Nevis? Are there Iranians still in possession of our passports? Ask Denzel Douglas. What about the terrorists? In 2013, the Canadian authorities reported an incident that drew attention to the security implications of the citizenship, my Straight Talk family. And according to Canadian officials, a man identified as Alizir Moghadam. We must remember Alizir Moghadam, described in media and government accounts as being of Iranian origin, attempted to enter Canada using a diplomatic passport issued by St. Kitts and Nevis, my Straight Talk family. How can we forget Moghadam? We shouldn't be able to forget Moghadam, my Straight Talk family. Alizir Moghadam. We were told about him by the then Foreign Minister Patrice Nisbet, who got a diplomatic passport through the CBI. Very strange arrangement, my Straight Talk family. Very, very strange arrangement, I can tell you. But we learned back then about Alizir Moghadam. How can we forget him, my Straight Talk family? It is hard to follow. But Alizir Moghadam got a passport through the CBI program, my Straight Talk family, and caused us plenty problems, as I said earlier, as I said to you, my Straight Talk family. But we'll get to that. The episode occurred against a broader backdrop of international scrutiny of investor citizenship programs in the Caribbean. Because citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis enjoyed visa-free access to Canada, Ottawa, viewed as any weakness in the integrity of that program as having direct implications for Canadian border security. And we know what happened after that. I won't burden you with that information. We know in 2014, the U.S. Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, Vincent, issued an advisory as well, highlighting vulnerabilities associated with certain foreign CBI programs, including that of St. Kitts and Nevis. But together, the border incident caused Canada's revocation of visa-free access and Vincent advisory, my Straight Talk family, marked a turning point in how investor citizenship programs were perceived internationally, my Straight Talk family. And do you believe, or would you believe, that our CBI has come back into the news headlines following the strike of the U.S. in Iran, my Straight Talk family? Following that strike, we are back in the headlines one more time, my Straight Talk family. As the Daily Mail posted our issues relating to St. Kitts and Nevis, my Straight Talk family. However, there are related documented discussions involving Iranian individuals. And we were part of that particular link, the offshore financial links involving Iranian businessman Ali Sadir as well. But my Straight Talk family, we know that the Vincent report was lifted. And yes, we must be happy. But the fact that the passport should have expired by now is one reason given for the lifting or the rescinding of that Vincent report, my Straight Talk family. But my Straight Talk family, whether one views the imprisonment of Nicolas Maduro, the killing of Ali Khamenei, we must agree that the world has entered a moment of rupture. And whether one views these events as justice, deterrence, or destabilization, they are not isolated incidents. They are signals that the old diplomatic playbooks are torn up. Signals that great powers are no longer whispering about spheres of influence. They are enforcing them. In our hemisphere, this posture draws from the 1823 doctrine of James Monroe. The Monroe Doctrine reasserted and sharpened under the so-called Trump corollary advanced by Donald Trump. The message has been unmistakable. The Western Hemisphere is a strategic red line, my Straight Talk family, and external rivals will be denied footholds in this hemisphere, in this region. That was told without water in his mouth by Steve Miller.
In the Western Hemisphere in the last 14 months. Some of that was touched on by the earlier speakers, but just to restate it, we are not going to cede an inch of territory in this hemisphere to our enemies or our adversaries. Our national security, our homeland security, the safety and well-being of our people begins at home, begins in our neighborhood, begins in our home region. And for too long, we have allowed foreign enemies, foreign adversaries, and enemy terrorist organizations to control territory and spaces in this hemisphere where they can project power, project threats, and directly threaten the lives of your citizens and our citizens. And so under the leadership of President Trump, we are using hard power, military power, lethal force to protect and defend the American homeland. Not a single one of your nations should tolerate the existence of a single square mile of territory that is under the control of any entity other than the sovereign governments of your country. The idea that we would have in this hemisphere area that are under the physical control of foreign terrorist organizations, paramilitary organizations, is completely unacceptable.
Unacceptable. And that's the word coming from the U.S. And my Straight Talk family, as I said to you before, St. Kitts and Nevis featured in this Daily Mail document that relates to the secret global property empire of Iranian Ayatollahs here, including mansions on London's Billionaires Row and Beverly Hills of Dubai, as regime massacres impoverish protesters. And he says, my straight talk family, look at that last paragraph on your right. The shell companies and intermediaries have been established across a wide geographical spread, covering the UAE, Isle of Man, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Europe. We are always involved. Because back then, nobody, and even now, nobody seems to want to do their due diligence. St. Kitts and Nevis, again featured. In the Daily Mail, one of the top papers, over a century old, United Kingdom journals, tied to the Ayatollah. We shouldn't be happy about that, my straight talk family. But political instability will invite intervention. And my straight talk family, the limit of the intervention won't be taken easily. And I can tell you, to continue proclaiming friends of all and satellites of none without strategic clarity brings me to this Aristotle question of credibility. And a friend of mine pointed me to this article in the economic journal, I think it was. And the quote of the day, as you can glean, by Aristotle, a friend to all is a friend to none. And the question asks how to identify real companions in life. According to Aristotle, he wrote, we believe good men more fully and more readily than others. This is true generally, whatever the question. Credibility is not about rhetoric, it's about consistency between values and action. If CARICOM states proclaim sovereignty but cannot secure their borders, protect their financial systems, or decline their strategic interests, our credibility erodes. My straight talk family, the era of passive non-alignment straight talk submits must evolve into active interest-based alignment. This does not mean choosing permanent sides in great power rivalry. It means defining what assets are strategic and non-negotiable, what partnerships are conditional, what red lines exist regarding sovereignty. And my straight talk family, finally, a Caribbean doctrine for the 21st century is what we need. If there's to be a new world order, then the Caribbean must articulate its own doctrine. As Aristotle reminds us, credibility determines whether our words carry weight. Let our actions reinforce our declarations. The New World Order will not wait for the hesitant. It will respect the prepared. Aristotle opined, like I said, a friend to all is a friend to none. A friend to all is a friend to none. And that in the age of hard power and hardened alliances, universal friendliness without defined loyalties can appear less like diplomacy and more like indecision, my straight talk family. This world we live in, as CARICOM stands at 50, as a defining moment, my straight talk family. The The task before the Caribbean is to strike that balance deliberately and not to drift into it accidentally. Today, the world is witnessing the rapid reshaping of global power. The capture of Maduro. Intervention in Venezuela shocked the hemisphere and demonstrated how quickly geopolitical realities can change. At a moment like this, silence from regional leaders is not diplomacy. It is abdication, my Straight Talk family. Therefore, what principles will defend small states like ours? We must stand united, though, my Straight Talk family, as the U.S. has stated its case quite clearly. And I must leave you again with this, my Straight Talk family. Friends of all.
In the Western Hemisphere in the last 14 months. Some of that was touched on by the earlier speakers, but just to restate it, we are not going to cede an inch of territory in this hemisphere to our enemies or our adversaries. Our national security, our homeland security, the safety and well-being of our people begins at home, begins in our neighborhood, begins in our home region. And for too long, we have allowed foreign enemies, foreign adversaries, and enemy terrorist organizations to control territory and spaces in this hemisphere where they can project power, project threats, and directly threaten the lives of your citizens and our citizens. And so under the leadership of President Trump, we are using hard power, military power, lethal force to protect and defend the American homeland.
And you got that message. As the CARICOM-CHAIR roams, Maduro is captured and Khamenei is killed. That's my story tonight, my Straight Talk family. I'm not going to change it. I tarried for a long time because I wanted to make this point pellucid, clear. But I'll open the lines now and entertain your calls and your emails. And when I do so, and I'll do so momentarily, I anticipate that you will respect others. And of course, to achieve that, you must first respect yourselves. Let us be fair to all concerned and let us try to build goodwill and better friendships. This is my Straight Talk family. Try to say and do the things that are beneficial to all concerned. And in the process of doing and saying those things, let us strive to build a kinder, gentle St. Kitts and Nevis. With that said, I go to the lines and say good night to our first caller. Caller, you live.
Good night, Mr. Liebert.
Good night, my dear. Always our first caller, yes.
The very people who believe
Yep.
they are protecting our democracy
Protecting our democracy
have succeeded in destroying it.
Succeeded in destroying it. Okay.
I repeat, the very people who believe they are protecting our democracy have succeeded in destroying it. Have a great evening.
Have a great evening as well, my Straight Talk family. Always come with you. Thought-provoking quotations from my quotationist, I call her. The very people who believe they are protecting our democracy have succeeded in destroying it. And it's 9:23, my Straight Talk family. The lines are open. I'm entertaining your calls and your emails. We are in a situation where we live in the Western Hemisphere, believe it or not. The USA are not going to take anything from their adversaries coming to their neighborhood. They don't want them in their neighborhood. And that is clear. Lucid, my straight talk family. I'll take some emails in the meantime as well. Yes, I've had an issue with some emails. I've got it cleared up today. Let me see, so I'll take my emails. Good night. Sir, it has come to the public attention that 3 lawsuits are at the pace of national security, or the pace of the Ministry of National Security's desk, because of the ill treatment of the officers at the Defense Force. A soldier bound to a wheelchair has resigned since August 2025 and has not received his gratuity or pension, and his salary has been cut since August 2025. They now claim that last week his document has been sent down to National Security for processing. But how can you cut his salary and not give him his benefits? The soldier is bound to his wheelchair and can merely help himself. Soldiers who overturned verdicts in the court matter have not returned to their job, and they have not been compensated for salaries lost because their salaries have been cut. Also, it is important to mention that it is illegal to cut soldiers' salaries and send them on suspension. But the national security uses their abuse of power and tell the soldiers that it is a board decision to use their power to overrule military law. They claim no money there to pay the soldiers who have won cases in court. The Defense Force members and their families are a stronghold for constituency number 2. Straight talk, can you investigate and can you make the public aware of this national security crisis? Very interesting. Yes, we can investigate that. That's what we do best. Good night, Patches. I must admit that your program stands above the rest, and you should be proud of the job you're doing, as it got an A+. Last night I happened to listen to a television program on demand, and this is the worst thing I have ever heard on air. Patches, a caller from someone called from Montserrat. He was just outspoken. He told Mark, I am going to get you in the Guinness Book of Records as the Prime Minister who always does not have the answer right now. But next program, I would have the answers for you. Motto, this was insulting. Patches, let me ask you something. Terrence Drew, does he operate from an overseas office? My reason for asking, it seems as though he's always overseas. The last time I saw him on television, he was in Africa. Where the hell does the man live and work? We are really in a scary position, and something must be done with this. He has to be out of office next election. Terence is the first Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis who spends so much working time in the sky on a plane. He's not a pilot, so is he a flight attendant? I would like to know, who is the reporter who asked Terence Drew the question? When Drew asked him, are you asking St. Lucia? I thought Drew made himself a fool, and he said to the reporter, wait. That was the most embarrassing moment, beg your pardon, of Drew's television appearance at a conference he hosted in his homeland, and of which he is the leader. This is really shameful to all Kittitians and Nevisians. Patches, continue doing a good job, and you keep the world informed. Thanks. I'm humbled, caller, by your commendation. This other email reads, I always wonder, reads this email, why some politicians in CARICOM have the false impression that St. Kitts Nevis' people are foolish, stupid, and can be easily misled. We in this federation have demonstrated, and protested against our Prime Minister traveling to almost all the CARICOM islands to have pre-consultations with them prior to their arrival in the Federation. We here consider that it was a complete misuse of taxpayers' resources. Don't come and tell us nonsense, Dr. Joe, that because you were utilizing the RSS military plane, island hopping, it was not any cost to the taxpayers. That statement is ridiculous and most laughable. Why then you don't tell us that you will not be claiming any subsistence of $300 per night, or be reimbursed from our treasury for monies you use on your travel? And to the Prime Ministers of Jamaica, St. Vincent, and others who subscribe and endorse this wastage, claiming that it was a good gesture that he visited the countries prior to CARICOM, meaning tell us none of you are any better when it comes to squandering taxpayers' money. You all should be ashamed of yourselves, coming here to put in a political plug and campaigning in disguise for the Prime Minister and his Labour Party is intolerable. And we are very abhorrent over your behavior in St. Kitts. Is it any wonder that the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago berated and scolded all of you not to get involved in the internal campaigning of member states' politics? Thank you, Lady Kamala. You were the best at CARICOM. Beside what the naysayers and detractors such as Hillary Beckles say. Stand tall, Kamala. We love you. This other email reads, all those who are saying that PAM should not return in a coalition with PLP, but is silent when it comes to the relationship Mark and CCM. Let me tell you, people, something. In an extremely bad and noticeable manner, Mark has caused more serious harm and embarrassment to PAM than Harris and PLP. Could Harris be more politically greedy, more politically self-serving, and more avaricious for political power than Mark Brantley? Just think again, my friends. Every decent citizen was looking forward to Mark cede the opposition leadership to Sean, bearing in mind that they campaigned together, side by side, PAM and CCM, on the rubric of one political movement. Who can forget DuPont vigorously pushing for this combined movement day and night on his radio program? Little did Sean and Pam knew that Mark was crafty and cunningly deceptively working insidiously in conjunction with the Labour Party to ensure at all costs Harris will not be Prime Minister. They succeeded in getting rid of Harris. Then dangerous, hypocritical, and crooked Mark divorced himself from Sean and Pam and tacitly joined and working in harmony with the Labour Party. What could have prevented him from allowing Sean becoming the PAM leader of the opposition in Parliament, or even give Pam the nominated or senator member? But he kept all for his greedy self and shamefully despised Sean and Pam to the core. Mark, as a so-called opposition leader, never once criticized the government for any wrongdoing and the oppressive measures they have brought on us. On the other hand, the irony is, Mark relishes criticizing Sean in Parliament, thus giving laughter and jokes to government members. My fellow Pamites, be wise and judicious. A coalition with Pam and PLP is the best thing to get rid of Labour, reads this email. Mr. Liebert, I've always wondered why some politicians, I think that's the same email. I think so. Yes, it seems. Yes, it seemed like the same email. But it seems that this is repeated. Yes, it seems, yes. The three emails, my Straight Talk family, they are of the same content, it seems. And it's now 9:34, my Straight Talk family, as we entertain your calls, entertain your emails. And tonight, we looked at our Roman CARICOM chairman, who, as I said, seemed to be biologically confused, went to Ghana and he met his aunt. Went to Ghana, my Straight Talk family, met his aunt.
My visit here on another level is really coming back home. As I drove through Ghana, I couldn't tell the difference as whether I was in St. Kitts and Nevis or I was in Ghana.
Get that sorted out, my Straight Talk family.
It's profound. It's
Yes.
revealing. You have
He went to Ghana and saw his aunt.
My visit here on another level is really coming back home. As
we're
I
having
drove
some
through Ghana, I couldn't tell the difference
little technical
whether I was in St. Kitts and Nevis or I was in Ghana.
difficulty with that.
It's profound. It's
Particular.
revealing. You have to experience it to know it.
Some bite.
Each
I
person
wonder
I
why.
see look like somebody I know.
My Straight Talk family.
My visit here on another level is really coming back home.
But let's take this email though, nonetheless, my Straight Talk family.
Ghana,
Let's,
I couldn't tell the difference as whether I was in St. Kitts and Nevis or I was in Ghana. It's profound. It's revealing. You have to experience it to know it. It's profound. Each person I see look like somebody I know.
Okay.
Yes. Last year I was relating to Mr. President, of course, that I had the opportunity to meet the deputy or the vice president in Addis when we had the first in-person meeting between the AU and CARICOM. I was the chair from the CARICOM side, and His Excellency President from Angola was the chair from the African side. And I met a lady, a distinguished lady, and inquired who she was, because she looked so much like my aunt. And as I approached her, she said, you know, she was the vice president of Ghana. So I'm really thinking now that my family might have come from here. But
imagine that, my Straight Talk family. That was my bad. My headsets weren't working. But that was my bad, my Straight Talk family. Imagine. Why does he stay in Ghana? He met his aunt. He met his family. Greetings, Patches, reads this email. While you are on the FBDC, I wonder if that means the Free Development Corporation. Yes, perhaps, yes. While you were on the FBDC matter last week, I would like to talk about the bad treatment to the 10 workers that were sent home in 2024 without pension. With all the money that the government can find to lend the Marriott interest-free, they can still find some to give those workers and see that they have a pension. It's not too late, and it would also be beneficial, or it will also benefit those, beg your pardon, who still want to go home and those who still working over there. Continue the good works. I wish to remain anonymous. Yes, certainly. Don't you worry about that. I know you'll remain anonymous. That's why we, in fact, gave you the access via the email, my Straight Talk family. And as we move up on the uphill side of 10 o'clock, we actually looked at the task before the Caribbean, which is to strike that balance deliberately and not to drift into it accidentally. Because in a world of uncertainty and complexity, small states must not merely survive the new order. We must position ourselves within the world confident, credible, and clear-eyed about where we stand. In geopolitics, excessive alignment becomes subservience, but deficiency of alignment becomes irrelevance, my straight talk family. And CARICOM, like I said, stands at 50. And it's a defining moment in our history. And we can no longer cling to a slogan that worked in a bipolar world, but falters in a multipolar contest. Or we can modernize our doctrine, retaining sovereignty while recognizing that credibility requires clarity. And we have told you what is the plan of this, and that is clear.
In the Western Hemisphere in the last 14 months. Some of that was touched on by the earlier speakers, but just to restate it, we are not going to cede an inch of territory in this hemisphere to our enemies or our adversaries. Our national security, our homeland security, the safety and well-being of our people begins at home, begins in our neighborhood, begins in our home region. And for too long, we have allowed foreign enemies, foreign adversaries, and enemy terrorist organizations to control territory and spaces in this hemisphere where they can project power, project threats, and directly threaten the lives of your citizens and our citizens. And so under the leadership of President Trump, we are using hard power, military power, lethal force to protect and defend the American homeland. Not a single one of your nations should tolerate the existence of a single square mile of territory that is under the control of any entity other than the sovereign governments of your country. The idea that we would have in this hemisphere area that are under the physical control of foreign terrorist organizations, paramilitary organizations, is completely unacceptable.
Let's go to the lines, man. Straight Talk family. Call you live.
Thank you, Brother Patches. Good night.
Yes, good night, sir.
I have a question, and let's analyze this question with an answer. Knowing what the Americans said, they will not cede an inch of any adversaries in its region. Okay? Make that note. Knowing that, what is going on in Nevis with the Belgium? Does the Belgium government, more or less to say, narrow it down to Ollie Johnson and his crew, his entourage? What they want to establish in Nevis and probably might be multiplying to other territories, other islands. Do you think it will be a liken to the U.S.? Because does anyone know the intention of these people? And to me, that will be posing a threat to the U.S. for security reasons. No one is certain, but we could be optimistic that what lies ahead remain to be revealed. So I will agree with the U.S. It's just a matter of time because of the New World Order. There might be a more drastic measures taken against any of these countries, example St. Kitts and Nevis. It's a question with need answers, and I doubt if that will be able to be answered. But we got to take serious consideration what we are doing. But because of our leaders, the people will perish. I will leave that right there. I have another one, but I'll come in again. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Street Dog family. Well, you see, the thing that or the position that CARICOM has taken is as their foreign policy, they say they are friends of all and satellite of none. That's a policy I believe over 50 years, if not going on to 50 years old. But being friends of all without strategic definition invites pressure from all. And being satellites of none requires the strength to resist becoming a satellite. And when Stephen Miller made the point, and you realize the US, and rightly so, keeps stressing the point that the Western Hemisphere is their neighborhood. And who can dispute that? Who can dispute that? Can anybody dispute that? Caller, you're live. Hello, caller. Are you there, caller? Okay, we seem to have lost that caller. What's going on? Yes. Yes, caller, try getting back again. I inadvertently disconnected you. But yes, what Miller is talking about, your adversaries. An adversary is not your friend. And listen to him clearly.
Not a single one of your nations should tolerate the existence of a single square mile of territory that is under the control of any entity other than the sovereign governments of your country. The idea that we would have in this hemisphere area that are under the physical control of foreign terrorist organizations, paramilitary organizations, is completely unacceptable.
Unacceptable. Caller, you're live. Is a caller playing telephone chairs? Every time I take a call, he seems to hang up. But it's 13 before the 10 o'clock hour. And again, we were caught up. You can glean from your screen. We're caught up with the Khamenei's. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Yes, good evening, Calipan Aunt.
Yes.
Good night, how are you?
I am peaceful. Yourself?
Yes, so the Prime Minister is not here again. He's gone, where the place name? He's gone Ghana? Ghana?
He gone back home, he said.
He gone back home?
Yes.
When he do come to think, he come to feed up, he dog them, and then he gone again.
Where you want him to come to sing? I thought you want him to stay in Ghana.
Well, if he want to stay, he could stay, but couple morning from now, all the money that he walking up and going and playing every minute, that's people tax money. People work and put the tax money there. You know, I see with this man here, he want to have thinking people, them like what? Like a Peter old class where he could walk and use. 5 years gone soon come, 5 years gone soon up, he coming back to those people? I don't believe so, Mr. Lloyd, but he ain't coming back to these people to tell them, give him another chance, put him back inside there. They have to get rid of he and he cabal them. Get the backside out of our feet because they don't know what they're doing. Here is grace to the people in this country here. All people supposed to get the money and every 25th.
Are you there, caller? Okay, we seem to have lost that caller. Perhaps Kalike was on, you need a little top up. But The man say he gone to Africa. So we should pray he stays in Africa because he met his family there, he said. Caller, you're live.
Yes, Mr. Library, they cut off what I'm saying. He ain't respect the elders then to give them the money. The same data where they're supposed to get the money every 25th every month. He ain't respect the elders then.
Okay.
But he want to pull up his backside with people tax money. The people I think it's better off now, you know. They're better off now or you get them out of here, you know. Because a lot of young people out there with subject and they cannot get no job. Anything happen to anybody, they're going to dead like a dog here in the country, yeah. Because the young people are leaving from school with a subject and they cannot get no work. But here you got to talk about you're going to Cuba and all them going to play something. Eh? But you're going to down the young people have got their subject. Put the people who go study wherever, who brains, heart, stomach, wherever, bone, wherever. Send the people on who study. The one who got to go talk about that go Colombia and all them going to play something.
Okay.
Eh?
Okay.
You don't care about the people in this place here.
Okay, my dear. I got you.
The hospital, the hospital, the kind of medication up there. The work done here in Sandy Point Post Office, well one fix.
Okay.
They ain't doing nothing. Nothing they're doing in this place here. But pulling up the backside with people tax money.
Okay, my dear, I got you loud and clear.
The same conduct in Pasadena will come back and hand the backside.
Okay.
And they don't know. He's supposed to pay double salary in September because election was soon, yeah. You the people think it and even get them out, you know. Everybody double salary, get them out.
Okay.
But they don't get the backside out.
Okay, my dear, thank you very much. Very passionate caller that is there. Goes by the name of Clycon's aunt, she says. But it's 9 before 10 o'clock. I'll give you a few minutes after 10 o'clock because I ought to have apologized. Forgive me for that. I started about 9 minutes late. But I'll go back to the lines and take this caller. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Patrick.
Good night.
Mr. Patrick, good night.
Good night. This sounds like the Bible man.
Yes.
You just woke up.
No, man. I'm listening to you all the time.
Okay, what's on your mind?
Oh, give thanks unto the Lord.
For he is good.
For his good.
His mercies.
For his mercy endured forever.
Yes.
Psalms 34.
Mm-hmm.
This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles.
Okay.
Psalm 41.
Blessed is
the man that considereth the poor.
Yes.
In the time of trouble, the Lord shall deliver him. Mr. Patches, no, nobody taking on the Bible now. But one of these days, the same Bible there, they have to give an account for it. And it's the poor people who are crying out for help. God hearing them. And only a set time, God is come to the rescue. Mr. Patches, Psalm 46 said,
God is my refuge, my strength.
Okay. In the present time.
Yes.
Okay.
Very present.
And the last one, Psalm 91. He that dwelleth in the sacred place
of the Most
High
shall abide
on the shadow of the Almighty.
Yes.
I will say to the Lord, He is my refuge, my fortress in God will I trust.
Yes.
When you trust in the Lord, He gonna come to your rescue, Mr. Patches. Patches, I am not going no further than there. God, I don't want to preach.
Thank you. Thank you, my brother, for your spiritual intervention. You gave me the Psalms tonight. That's good. You gave me the Psalms tonight. And that's the Bible man. Always a feature with his Psalms on a regular basis. But thanks a lot, Mr. Bible man. Hello. Are you there, caller? Hello? Hi, caller.
Yes, Mr. Leiber, I come back again. This month here, listen to me, Mr. Leiber, the 27th, between the 27th to the 28th, listen to me, gonna make one full year since my brother's son get his death at White Gate and nothing happened, nothing come out, no justice come on, not all. But me I said tonight to you, Mr. Leiber, me I said to you tonight, it not done yet, because God is working and He gonna work in my brother's behalf. It's just a matter of time for karma attack him. Not like you feel like me brother try going on like that, you know, like some dog, you know. The police arm when them think of work inside the one clean out. The commissioner let he go ahead. My brother child God just like that, nothing come out, nothing happen. The police force come up, they want clean out. And after the government wants clean out too.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How is it your brother never made any comment on
Mr. Leiber, I can't talk about nobody here to you. Whenever I will want to you, you know, I will want come a tongue to put up to you.
So he's
Me not talk about nobody. I ain't gonna talk about nobody here.
Okay. All right.
This one is a year. So don't let me let you down on the year, you know? None time goes back.
Okay, so when we
because
then,
continue read the Bible and I will continue pray for him.
Okay. All right, got you, my dear. Got you very much. It's very strange that, as I said, your brother never contacted anyone about it. But caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Mr. Patches, greetings.
Greetings, my brother. How art thou?
I'm very good. What about you?
I am peaceful. Trust me.
From since this year begin, you have some very interesting theses, full of light.
Thank you.
And that is very good. CARICOM-50 is the topic, and we, as a federation, has, let's say, an island of prayer. And we have an island of prayer, then we hearing of the Premier of Nevis saying he didn't get an invitation to the summit. And I look at it this way, Mr. Patches, as a citizen. Why didn't we set ourselves to render praise or prayer unto the Lord? We should always find ourselves changing our attitudes. For me, I feel he should have given an invitation, providing no protocol would have been broken. Because he getting an invitation will be enhancing the role of unity, will be also enhancing the role of cooperation.
Was it? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but was it an invitation, or he just wanted to be part of the delegation? Because he said he went to the official ceremony.
That's what he said. But what I'm saying, if no protocol would have been broken, and it is so that he should have been provided an invitation to go where else.
As a part of the delegation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because remember, there was reference to what the Prime Minister did in terms of shipping. Right? So if no protocol would have been broken, I don't see why something couldn't have been done. Why he had to make such a statement. There had to be a reason why he makes such a statement. Another thing too, Mr. Patches, we always hear this talk about free movements of CARICOM citizens traveling between islands. Why the government, or why our government does not put policy out there to our people in the outer world, to give them some, hear the cries of people who want to come back home to invest, and give them some tax-free benefits and see where that they carry. Because if our people ain't really coming back home to fill the gap, and the gap is being filled by other CARICOM citizens, I feel in the long run we have a change in our population somewhere along the line. That's how we look at it, and that's my only input with the CARICOM issue. Take care, Mr. Patches, and you continue to be strong.
Thank you very much. Always welcome your interventions. You always come from a certain perspective and as very profound in thought, I may add. And we welcome them here, your interventions and straight talk. But as we wind down tonight's programming, it's just a minute past 10 o'clock. But we looked at the situation in the Western Hemisphere, and we are in fact part of the Western Hemisphere, and in the neighborhood of the USA. Caller, you're live.
In the neighborhood of good night.
Good night, sir.
The caller just before asked the question why Premier Brantley was not a part of the delegation or was given an invitation. He was given an invitation, but my question is, could it be that he's also the leader of the opposition? Is why he was not made a part of the delegation? Is that a possibility?
Well, he traveled with him to Taiwan as leader of the opposition. So he went foreign as leader of the opposition. But I don't necessarily know what he brings to the table in terms of being a delegate for a CARICOM conference. I mean, you have a foreign minister. There's normally the head of government and the foreign minister that goes to meetings like this. So I don't know why an opposition leader wants to go there. Even if Kamala does it, that doesn't justify he should be part of the delegation.
But as you talk about Kamala, I'm very disappointed in Kamala's presentation. Very disappointed. Kamala reminds me of 1 from 10 with 0. Kamala came on to give freedom to Trump and to say how great Trump was. I happen to disagree with her. I don't like that. I don't like what she did. It was very disappointing to me. And then she had this tete-a-tete with Mayor. It was very embarrassing, very disappointing. I certainly didn't expect that. And I'm hoping that the CARICOM would be get together again and become more united. And even though people should say what they want to say, you have to be very careful, because you came across very badly to me, very badly. Very, very badly. I would have liked to see a more united front, a more, and not only that, the issue of Barbados and Trinidad should have been sorted out a long time ago, and not at that forum, in public. And Mayor said that Kamala was a liar.
Okay, my brother. Well, these are issues, as Kamala said, that we can all take different pathways, but have the same objectives. And she outlined her reason for supporting the U.S. and others will. It's as I said, it's not about Trump. You may dislike Trump, but you must look at the mission. That's what's the important part of it. But any final words?
Well, as we talk about Trump, he has made the world far more unsafe than Russia and China has done.
Oh,
far more. Okay. I'm very disappointed, and I still feel that the Americans. I'm so disappointed with the Americans, because they knew what that president brought to the world in 2016 to 2020 and January 6th. I don't understand or see how in when he can come in a couple of years from now, that he's going to step down as president step down and allow the next president to take forward. Okay. I don't see it.
Okay.
I see a problem, and I see as he continues to create problems for the world.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, that's what Straight Talk is about. My Straight Talk family. I go back to the lines and thank this caller for holding caller you live. Hello, caller.
Hi, Patrice. How are you?
I am peaceful. Yourself?
I'm peaceful also. One question I asked is, the CARICOM meeting that they had, is any one of those leaders bring their position with them?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so that's why they couldn't invite Mark. Mark should have given up because he believes he's greedy. He should have given up the opposition leader, and then they will invite him because he's the premier of Nevis. He should have given it up, and then they could have invited him because he's the premier of Nevis. They couldn't invite him. He's the opposition leader. He said that nobody could outsmart him. But he outsmarted himself. He outsmarted himself because from day one, he should have never taken the leader, but he want everything, he want to grasp everything. You see? That's why I say he outsmarted himself. Because that if he had give up the opposition leader, he'll be able to go to the CARICOM because he is the premier of the other of Nevis. So he's like the leader of Nevis. But they couldn't invite him because he's the opposition leader. No other opposition leader there. So that's why he outsmarted himself. Huh?
I don't see why it is necessary to work with the premier. You have a federal prime minister, and he's
but then but he's the leader. He's the leader for Nevis.
We don't have to work with the leader of Nevis.
Yeah.
But you don't have to work with the leader of Nevis. I mean, are you saying
no,
that?
But at least, but he carrying a threat of the opposition, and the others them didn't bring their opposition.
Okay.
The others them who had premier with them. The other Trinidad and Tobago, they have a premier in Tobago. St. Kitts and Nevis have a premier. So then if they have the CARICOM, I think they should invite the premier because he's the leader of Nevis. So I could understand that, but you cannot invite a opposition leader. Can nobody bring the opposition leader with them? Nobody walking with the opposition leader. They want the opposition leader to know what's going on. Let it hear. That is what happened. But he said nobody could outsmart him. But he outsmarted him himself.
Okay.
So that's my little two pence.
Thank you very much for your input. I don't see what he brings to the table. The discussion was not about Nevis affairs. He's the premier for Nevis. He deals with Nevis affairs. The CARICOM has its own agenda, and they deal with that. I don't see why he wants to be invited at any delegation period, and that's my view. And I respect everything that's advanced. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Yeah, Patches, good evening, man.
How are you, man?
Yeah, undoubtedly, straight to it, man. Straight to it. I know you're running out of time. Undoubtedly, the premier's position is compromised, big time. And it's very much exposed at this point. The Nevis people has to pay attention to that. In terms of CARICOM, coming out of this summit in St. Kitts, we see only two big islands. Well, Trinidad, it might not be that big in comparison to Guyana, but we know now only Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana is extended an invitation to come to the USA to meet with Trump. You know, and I see that, to me, my thing is that the big countries is leaving the smaller countries behind. Just like what happened with the West Indies Federation breaking up. We fragmented. We need the unity pretty badly. And inside the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, we are losing our countries. We are losing our two islands to rich foreign folks. There might be a rift that's developing between the Prime Minister and the Premier over that Destiny project. I'm watching that very closely right now, Patches. You see, Dr. Drew is distancing himself away from that. We will see what the outcome is going to be pretty soon. If nothing happens with that Destiny project this year, we know definitely Dr. Drew is thinking that there is going to be a referendum on him. Because naturally, that Destiny project and that SSC law is going to become a referendum on the Premier and the Prime Minister both. I'm just asking the people to pay attention and do the right thing when the bell is rung. And I'll leave it there, Patches, man. You guys have a good night.
Have a good night as well, my dear brother. Good night, Mr. Libert reads this email. Let Mark take that. He like himself too much and like to be in things. Like a baby, he just wanted to go up on the stage. Let him stay in the back of the bus. It sweet me so, lol. Let him ball, reads this email. And as we wind down tonight's programming, we looked at our thesis for tonight, which I titled CARICOM-CHAIR ROAMS, Maduro captured plus Khamenei killed. And our Prime Minister is at present roaming across Africa. And according to him, he went back home. He saw his aunt. At least he thought he saw his aunt. But as usual, Joe is always biologically confused.
My visit here on another level is really coming back home. I As I drove through Ghana, I couldn't tell the difference as whether I was in St. Kitts and Nevis or I was in Ghana. It's profound. It's revealing. You have to experience it to know it. Each person I see look like somebody I know. Yes. Last year I was relating to Mr. President, of course, that I had the opportunity to meet the deputy or the vice president in Addis when we had the first in-person meeting between the AU and CARICOM. I was the chair from the CARICOM side, and His Excellency President from Angola was the chair from the African side. And I met a lady, a distinguished lady, and inquired who she was, because she looked so much like my aunt. And as I approached her, she said, you know, she was the vice president of Ghana. So I'm really thinking now that my family might have come from here. But on another level.
So yes, my Stray Dog family, would you suggest, or would you agree with the suggestion, I should say, that he should stay in Ghana since he has found his family? Drew has obviously found his aunt. And perhaps, just perhaps, he should stay in Ghana. What do you think, my Stray Dog family? But our caller, a few callers ago, made mention about Iran and what Trump has done in Iran. An attempt to defend Donald Trump, because he does that quite well, defends himself. But this is what transpired over a 40-year period and with 6 presidents. And this is what happened with Iran.
Truth is true.
And think about how American presidents have treated the Ayatollah for the last 40 years. Jimmy Carter, 52 Americans taken hostage 1979. Our policy, avoid and appease. That lasted 444 days. Ronald Reagan, 220 Marines are killed by Iranian-backed terrorists in 1983 in Beirut. Our policy, avoid and appease. Bill Clinton, avoid and appease. George Bush, avoid and appease. Barack Obama, definitely avoid, definitely appease, but also send Iran billions of dollars on crates. We've got the photos. Joe Biden? Well, Joe and Kamala, they definitely avoid and appease, but they didn't really have much of an Iran policy either.
Mr. President, to Iran in this moment.
Don't. What's the message to Iran?
Don't.
As President Biden said, just don't.
Exactly. One word. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that really worked, Kamala. You guys are so tough. Don't. Our official Iran policy for 4 years under Joe Biden. One word. Avoid, appease, and of course, don't. And that is what you get when you elect a man with dementia president of the United States. Jake Tapper wouldn't talk about that. He thought don't was a great idea.
And my Stray Dog family, 52 hostages held for over 400 days under President Carter. 220 Marines killed under Reagan. Well, those are the benchmarks we have. Or the other presidents avoided them and appeased them, according to that report. But in time, let's see what will transpire under Trump. But as we examine the current geopolitical disposition of the world, President Nicolas Maduro of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela was captured and now sits in a U.S. jail. The Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran, was eliminated. He's dead. Thus, the sum total of these two factors seem to equate or equal to the CARICOM chairman roaming all over Africa. He talks about the South-South, or importance of the South-South region.
As chair of CARICOM earlier this year, I emphasized the importance of strengthening South-South cooperation. Our engagement here reflects that commitment in action.
Well, my Straight Talk family, the posture of the U.S. have definitely changed. And what's happening in the Middle East must be of importance to us. And we always believe that it doesn't bother us. Look at this Daily Mail report. Secret global property empire of Iranian Ayatollah's heir, including mansions on London's Billionaires Row and Beverly Hills of Dubai, as regime massacres impoverish protesters. And look at the final paragraph on your right. Let's read it together. The shell company or companies and intermediaries have been established across a wide geographical spread, covering the UAE, the Isle of Man, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Europe. Yes, they laundered their money through our offshore banks. That's information that has come to the public from the Daily Mail. And it creates some concern, my Straight Talk family. As I said, mentioned earlier, this online gambling in Nevis. And Mark Brantley is going head on with that. Yes, the Destiny Project won't go any place because no one in their right mind can give up 10,000 passports to Brantley and Jensen's. 10,000 passports. 10,000 shares are what they want. They are silent in it, but do not be fooled, my Straight Talk family. No benefits are for the poor people in Nevis. The benefits will go to the Brantley household. But as we wind down, with the war raging in the Middle East, what will happen to us here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and by extension the Caribbean? As I said to you, we have taken a position with an outdated policy, friends of all and enemies or satellites of none. But I'll leave you as well with this Aristotle quote: a friend to all is a friend to none. And Aristotle, as the excerpt reads on your screens, a friend to all is a friend to none, highlights that true friendship requires selectivity and genuine mutual appreciation. The quote means someone who tries to be friends with everyone often ends up having superficial or weak relationships rather than deep, meaningful, and long-lasting relationships. One of the greatest intellectual figures of classical antiquity and Western history, Aristotle, philosopher, emphasizes that true friendship requires loyalty, selectivity, and genuine care. And do not fool ourselves, my Straight Dog family. The U.S. has taken a different posture in today's world, in this new world order, as we say.
In the Western Hemisphere in the last 14 months. Some of that was touched on by the earlier speakers, but just to restate it, we are not going to cede an inch of territory in this hemisphere to our enemies or our adversaries. Our national security, our homeland security, the safety and well-being of our people begins at home, begins in our neighborhood, begins in our home region. And for too long, we have allowed foreign enemies, foreign adversaries, and enemy terrorist organizations to control territory and spaces in this hemisphere where they can project power, project threats, and directly threaten the lives of your citizens and our citizens. And so under the leadership of President Trump, we are using hard power, military power, lethal force to protect and defend the American homeland. Not a single one of your nations should tolerate the existence of a single square mile of territory that is under the control of any entity other than the sovereign governments of your country. The idea that we would have in this hemisphere area that are under the physical control of foreign terrorist organizations, paramilitary organizations, is completely unacceptable.
Unacceptable. Because today the world is witnessing the rapid reshaping of global power. We saw the capture of Nicolas Maduro. And that shocked the hemisphere and demonstrated how quickly geopolitical realities can change. Now we see the assassination of Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, in the escalating Middle East conflict. The international system has entered an uneven, more uncertain and volatile phase. So the Caribbean cannot afford to drift while the world shifts beneath our feet. If the chair of CARICOM roams without a clear voice, without a principled stance, and without defending the sovereignty of nations, then the Caribbean risks becoming a spectator in a global order that is being rewritten in real time. This is the hour for leadership, not hesitation. Our region was built on the struggle for independence, dignity, and self-determination. What principles will defend small states like ours? My Straight Dog family, I leave you with this. The Caribbean must stand united, speaking with moral clarity, defending international law and protecting the sovereignty of all nations, large or small. Because if the Caribbean does not speak now, history will remember not our neutrality, but our silence. And silence in times like these is never neutral. It is surrender. As the CARICOM-CHAIR roams, Maduro captured, Khamenei killed. That's my story tonight, and I am not going to change it. And I'm going to thank Almighty God for guiding our conversation tonight as always. I'm going to thank all of you who viewed or listened. I want to thank those who called and all those who sent emails. Remember, you are the ones who make Straight Talk And for that reason, I say a big, big thank you. I am Ian Patches Liebert, and God's spear we will connect on Monday for another edition of Street Talk. Until then, be good to yourselves. Be good to all whom you meet. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Go to church. Do your chores. And remember, whatever your mind conceive, that you will achieve. But first of all, my Straight Talk family, what you have to do is believe. So when you wake in the morning, thank God for the morning light. Thank Him for taking you through the night. And my Straight Talk family, keep moving on. Bye-bye. Until we connect on Monday.
In the morning, I thank God for the morning light. Give Him thanks and praises for taking me safely through the night. For the rest of food and loving care, and for my mother's breath of life that's got me here. So whatever my mind conceives that I will achieve, you better believe, because I do the things I should, be to my brethren kind and good, the best I could. So I'll keep moving on, I won't stop now. I'll keep moving on till I reach the top somehow. Down on my knees, to the Lord I kneel and pray, with my heart and soul, beg Him to take me through each day. My guardian to keep and my guide, over every step I take, He will preside. So whatever my mind conceives that I will achieve, you better believe, because I do the things I should, be to my brethren kind and good, the best I could. So I'll keep moving on, I won't stop now. I'll keep moving on till I reach the top somehow. Now I'm on my way, with strength and courage from above. No man I'll fear, since God protects me